and helping us enlighten the world about pediatric chiropractic and all things health. So ChiroSecure, thank you for always having our backs and allowing us to spread the word about pediatric chiropractic. Right now, Elizabeth is going to take a little nap while we continue on to some amazing information. All right, have a good one, girl. I am Dr. Monika Buerger, and today we're going to cover some really cool information looking at preconception, prenatal, postnatal, neuronutritional pearls of how specific substrates can affect neurodevelopment and what that means long-term for you as a chiropractor and what to look for in your practices. So we're going to dive in and dig in. And today we're going to talk all things vitamin D. Yes, vitamin D. All right. So first of all, why am I doing this? This is the first in a series that we're going to look at for specific nutritional considerations in the developing brain and prenatal and postnatal. So about 50% of the total population in the United States is deficient in vitamin D. So first of all, let's talk about optimal functional levels versus normal. We know that normal is not necessarily optimal. So normal on a standard lab is going to be greater than 30 nanograms per milliliter. Okay, you don't need to know that. Just look greater than 30. That's not necessarily optimal for neurological functioning. What we want to look for in the adult patient is about 80 to 90, and in the pediatric patient, about 50. So that's first thing to get off your docket. Understanding optimal function versus normal lab values. All right. So why do I care so much about vitamin D? Well, one, for the pregnant woman, it's very much associated with things like gestational diabetes, like preeclampsia, and even some ties with preterm birth. If you've ever heard me talk about preterm birth and low birth weight before, you know that's a big thing for me. It's a big passion because in the world of neurodevelopment and the neurobiology of disease, the foundation of disease potentially across the lifespan of an individual is associated with prenatal stress. And one of those factors is preterm birth. So if we have a mama, and this is just one component to think about, but that is low in vitamin D, that potentially can lead to a potentially preterm birth, which is one of the most studied factors for neurodevelopmental challenges and the neurobiology of disease across the lifespan of an individual. That's a pretty important topic, pretty important point to understand. So low vitamin D, potential prenatal complications, gestational diabetes, preeclampsia, preterm birth are just a few. Then we need to look at other potential low synergistic components that make vitamin D absorbable and also best metabolized. That's K2. So you do want to look for vitamin D supplement with K2, and magnesium is another very important one. And most people these days in this country are low on magnesium because of all of our adrenal glands are tapped out. Tap out adrenals, you tap out magnesium. So you also want to support vitamin D with those two substrates. Vitamin D is a neurosteroid. It affects neurogenesis, building of neurons in the fetal brain, and it supports synaptogenesis, or building synapses in the developing brain and the newborn brain, particularly in one part of the brain that I'm having a kind of a fetish with, a passion for these days, is the hippocampus. So yeah, the hippocampus we know is all about memory. It's associated with Alzheimer's, etc. In fetal development, we're getting new neurons that are building in that area of the brain, and they continue for shortly after birth. But it is the only area of the brain that continues to, it's one of two areas in the neuroscience world that have been accepted, and is the key area that has been accepted to continue to build new neurons for our entire life. So neurogenesis, new neuron building for our entire lives, happens in the hippocampus. And guess what? Vitamin D is one nutrient that helps foster continued building of neurons in that part of the brain. So it's huge. The hippocampus is huge for memory consolidation, but it's also really huge in regulating our stress response, our HPA axis, and it is very much associated with social engagement and some executive functioning skills. And it's very much associated with deficiencies in the neurodevelopmental, neurodivergent, autistic population. So another key reason we need to look and consider vitamin D levels. It's very much associated in psychiatric disorders. And here's a little little caveat. Some studies have shown that if mom is deficient in the first trimester of pregnancy, that its low vitamin deficiency levels are more associated with visual motor development in the fetus. So visual motor development, that's going to be a lot of hand-eye coordination. Visual motor is extremely important for us being able to navigate our space. It's a sensory system. So in other words, we can have visual sensory distortion because we don't know where our body is in space in association with our environment, and being able to move our body and move our eyes appropriately in space. So long-term consequences can be learning, attention, behavior, a lot of issues. Okay. So that's one issue. The third trimester, if mom's deficient in the third trimester, which is going to be, can be more challenging because by the time she's getting to try-3, a lot more nutrients have been depleted from her body. Pregnancy is considered the stress test of the body, right? So by the third trimester, if mom's deficient, it has been linked to potential language acquisition, executive functioning, memory in the fetus. So, moral of the story is we want to support mom during the whole pregnancy on vitamin D. Vitamin D is also associated with the little fiddle farts, especially in the first year of life, that are challenged with eczema, particularly. So eczema, allergies, those could be vitamin D deficiencies. Just one of the things to consider. The other thing I want you to consider is low vitamin D in the developing fetus, and during the first couple of years of life in particular, can be associated with poor muscle strength. Not necessarily low tone, but being able to gain muscle strength to do things like reaching and grasping, pushing up when they're on tummy time. Everything we need for that little fetus, that little fiddle fart, that first year of life, needs to build good neuromotor movement patterns, which is the foundation for brain development. So if they don't have the strength to move through these different motor patterns, to reach and grip and grasp and roll and push themselves up, those are all essential for natural integration of your primitive reflexes. So one nutrient, vitamin D, a lot of consequences. Please think along the lines of not just normal, but optimal functional health, not just for mom, but for the developing baby. And for the life, you build the foundation in those prenatal and early postnatal period, especially that first year of life, and you're laying an optimal foundation for the neurobiology of disease for the rest of the life. chemical, physical, mental, emotional health, potentially for the rest of the life of that child. So hopefully you find that nutritional pearl helpful. If you see these little fiddle farts coming into your office and they have eczema, they have vitamin D is also essential for gut health. So they're struggling with pooping and gut health and eczema, which all go together. They're having a hard time with muscle integrity and strength. I want you to consider, was mom low on vitamin D? Was she being tested during her pregnancy? Is she breastfeeding? Is she still low on vitamin D? And is that little fiddle fart potentially low on vitamin D? No matter what age they come into you, if they're struggling neurodevelopmentally, give it a check out. So hopefully those are some great pearls for you to get you thinking about. And if you want to learn more, scroll down. You got to jump in to our 6 pillars, Foundations of Neurodevelopment course. That's going to give you a load of information that you need to know in the modern day pediatric practice. And once again, ChiroSecure, you're amazing. Thank you for allowing me and Elizabeth to have this time together to enlighten the world in order to optimize development and pregnancy and for the learning, attention, behavior for the rest of the life of those little fiddle farts. Until next month, it's Dr. B and Elizabeth. See you later.
Today's pediatric show, Look to the Children, was brought to you by ChiroSecure.